We're talking business, nothing but talk.
This is the Coast Business Radio Podcast.
Dr. Ivan Misner is the founder of BNI, the world's largest business networking organization. Founded in 1985, BNI has thousands of chapters throughout the world. Each year, BNI generates millions of referrals, resulting in over billions of US dollars worth of business for its members. Called the father of modern networking by CNN and one of the top networking experts by Forbes, Dr. Misner is considered to be one of the world's leading experts on business. Among his many awards, he's been named Humanitarian of the Year by the Red Cross, and in 2016 was the recipient of the John C. Maxwell Leadership Award. He is also proud to be the co-founder of the BNI Charitable Foundation. Ivan Misner, thanks for joining us.
Mike, thanks so much for having me back on. I really appreciate it.
Okay, what's your thoughts on COVID-19 crisis and basically the shutdown of businesses overnight?
Yeah, so, I hate to call it the quarantine, the lockdown, the shutdown. I really have always tried to put as positive a spin on things as possible, including when I had cancer. I tried to put the positive spin on it. And for me, I like to call it the great pause. We've all been forced to take a pause and to reflect and look at our business and innovate. I mean, you think about it. I run the world's largest in-person networking organization. We have 9,500 in-person meetings every week. If there is any business, I mean, that's crazy. If there is any business that could really have been decimated by this, it's certainly a business like ours. And we have, within just weeks, flipped from in-person to online. So we now have 9,500 online meetings every week all around the world, and it's been incredible.
You once said to me in a previous interview, we're talking about business, and especially now I can see this being applied. I said to you, will we ever get life balance in business? And you said, no, we'll get harmony. Is that still the case?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in harmony. I don't know if I had done the book yet, Who's in Your Room, when we talked last, but I talked about that in one of my more recent books, Who's in Your Room, about the secret to creating your best life. And in there, I talk about balance is impossible. We look at balance like scales, and that our business has to be in balance with our personal life and spiritual life, and everything has to be completely in balance. And truth is, the life is more like a juggling act than a balancing act. And so I really believe in harmony versus balance. And I do believe you can create a life of harmony. I don't believe you can create a life of balance. At least I've not found it. But I have found a life of harmony, which is managing to deal with all of the different things in your life in an effective way, but not necessarily completely in balance.
Speaking of balance, we need to have full economy, whether it's in the US or in Australia, England, anywhere in the world. And I read somewhere this morning, in fact, that says 1 in 5 Americans could soon be unemployed. So how long do you think it will take for the US and the global economy to recover?
So I really think a lot of it depends on mindset. And I mean, if you take a look at the U.S. dollar bill, I'm going to get a little U.S. centric here for a moment. If you look at the back of the U.S. dollar, it says the words, "In God we trust." Now, forget about the spiritual element of it. But what I find interesting is that the dollar bill talks about having trust. And I think that's the key here, is that the public has to trust that they can make this up, that they can make this work. And I'm not talking about a spiritual goal here, but I am talking about confidence in the ability to turn this around. And I think the quicker we as a public, not just Americans, but global citizens, are able to trust that we can turn this around, the quicker it'll turn around. I mean, you look at the economy before COVID, and the economy was, in most places all around the world, very strong. I think we can get there again. It's going to take a few months. It's not going to happen, overnight. But I believe it will happen if people really are not set in fear. Don't be focused on fear. Be focused on opportunities. And if they do that, we can get through this in just a few months. And I think the economies will turn around. I don't see this as a long-term recession, believe it or not.
What about networking? I mean, has online commerce changed the principles of growing a business and good networking? Is it still the same? I mean, because I was talking to someone last week about this virtual world we live in. This is a lady in Hong Kong, and we're saying, it's wonderful, we can still connect, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, it's a bit like a virtual scotch or a whiskey. It looks great, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. You're right. It's not the same. And I don't think it'll ever be completely the same. I think as technology improves, it'll get better and better. There was a report about a year ago by the vice president of development for Linden Labs, where he said mixed reality technologies will be as commonplace as the iPhone within the next 5 to 10 years, which means technologies that are like 3D or mixed reality holographic images will be very, very commonplace. And I think that will help to address this issue, but nothing as good as meeting in person. We're doing this on the internet, this interview, but I've done many interviews on the internet, and they can be very, very good, but nothing's better than sitting across a table and looking at somebody with a microphone. The only thing between us is a microphone, and having a conversation and looking each other in the eyes and shaking hands. Nothing beats that. And I do believe that is going to be important. Maybe, the millennials probably will be more comfortable with the online. And I don't know I think the centennials are after that. I believe that those born in 2020 are going to I think they're going to be called the quarantines. I could be wrong.
Or the hibernators.
What's that?
Or the hibernators.
Hibernators, yeah. So who knows what it is, but I think it'll become easier and easier as time goes on. But at my age, I think in person is still the best way to connect with people.
What's your advice on how to survive if you're a small business with little capital and you're doing it really tough at this very moment?
So I really believe that if you wait until tough times are over, your business will be over. I'm going to repeat that. If you wait until tough times are over, your business will be over. And so you cannot wait until tough times are over. You have to really spend time now working on your business. And this is where I believe networking is an incredibly powerful tool, because this is an opportunity for you to go deep and build relationships with the people that you have in your personal network, to connect with them and to go deep in those relationships. Because if your network is a mile wide and an inch deep, it's not a very powerful network. It needs to be both wide and in places deep. So this is your time to devote effort in building your network and in activating your network, connecting with people and finding out how they're doing and be there to help them. And so I think this is the biggest complaint, Mike, that I got in the past about networking was, I don't have time to network. Yeah. Okay. You got time now. So spend that time activating your network and building relationships with people. That's my advice.
Just reaching out now, speaking about reaching out, BNI does all that and more. Tell us, this is your 60 seconds elevator pitch. Now, you have longer, by the way, but tell us about BNI from its inception to where it is now.
Well, BNI is a business and professional marketing organization that helps people build their business through referrals. We help people create lifelong referrals. And we have over 9,500 groups in more than 70 countries. We're very, very active in Australia. I created the organization because I didn't like the networks that were out there. I felt that many of them were very mercenary. Many of them were very social. I didn't like either. I wanted to have something that was relational and business oriented. And so that's why I created BNI. We now have over 270,000 members worldwide. And as I mentioned, we have flipped from in-person to online. So it's easier than ever to connect, to participate in a BNI group. You can show up at a BNI meeting and be in your sweatpants, and nobody will ever know. We're managing this because of our innovation, and that's one of the things I think businesses need to do is innovate right now.
But once these restrictions just vanish, go away, once we cross the bridge or crawl through that tunnel, hopefully the light isn't a train coming towards us, back to one-on-one. Is that how it goes?
Well, I believe a couple of things. One is I think the genie's out of the bottle, and now that we've seen that you can, in fact, have online meetings successfully, that there might be some hybrid. I'm not telling you what will happen with BNI. I don't know, but I foresee that there might be some kind of hybrid in the future of BNI, and the fact that we've had to do it has created an opportunity to do it. Many companies have been disrupted over their careers, over their businesses. I mean, Blockbuster was disrupted by Netflix, which is now global. Kodak was disrupted by digital cameras, which, oh, by the way, Kodak invented the digital camera. They had the patent on it, and they didn't pursue it.
I recall
and so
that.
I don't want to be disrupted. I want to be the disruption. Mm-hmm. So I believe that the genie's out of the bottle. But I think that we will, for the most part, go back to in-person meetings with possibly some kind of hybrid in place where there are in-person, especially as where there are online meetings, especially as technology improves. As a matter of fact, I wrote an article for entrepreneur.com. If you go to entrepreneur.com and you do a search on remote meetings of the future, you'll find an article I wrote in 2018 that said that meetings of the future will actually be online, including networking groups like BNI. But I anticipated it would be 5 to 10 years down the road. I didn't anticipate the COVID virus that obviously was a surprise to us all.
You had a pause in your life. You had cancer. Got through it. Wrote a book with the boss, the one beside you at all times, your wife. Healing Begins in the Kitchen. Tell us about the book. And I was looking at one of the videos too with John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus fame. And I'm absolutely astounded because I am a skeptic at times. Normally my healthy night out would be a couple of sliders, some fries and a margarita or four. Tell us about the book and on how it actually does work.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, thank you for mentioning my wife, Elizabeth, my bride of 31 years. And I love that you mentioned that she's beside me because I think so many people say, they talk about the woman behind the man. And Elizabeth has never been behind me. She has always been by my side. And I am the success I am today, really in large part because of her. So, I was diagnosed with cancer 8 years ago, and I was told I had 6 months to get surgery. Otherwise, it would become extremely serious and probably fatal. And I took the time. At that point, I really didn't believe in holistic medicine. I was very much a Western medicine kind of guy. And my wife kind of guided me and coached me into trying some holistic medicine for a few months before I decided what kind of surgery I would do. And over those 6 months, I was all in, completely doing the holistic approach. And over the 6 months, my markers reduced, and in the images, the MRIs and sonograms I was doing, the tumor actually reduced. And the doctor who wanted to do surgery was like, well, what are you doing? And I told him, he said, I can't be that. He said, all right, well, you don't have to do surgery yet. And now that was 6 months. He said, let's wait a month and let's see how it's going. And it continued to get smaller and smaller and smaller until about 9-10 months later. He said to me, well, I don't get it. You're in remission. I don't need to see you for a year. And that's when I really became a believer in holistic medicine. It has been 8 years, and I have still not done radiation, chemotherapy, or surgery. And I was told I had 6 months to do it. So I'm a believer. Healing Begins in the Kitchen is the name of the book, and it was co-written with my wife, Elizabeth.
And it's good if you're in business and you travel a lot, because you were saying in one of the videos that you would go to the chef at the restaurant or at the hotel and say, this is how I want it done.
Yeah.
And were they, I mean, on the video, you said they weren't offended, but I know some chefs, I'm just wondering if you had to wear a vest or carry a shield or something, because some chefs, they don't like you messing with their creation.
Yeah. So that was my expectation. I totally believed that would be the case. And so I went into it unknowingly the right way. So what I would do is when I would go to hotels, first of all, Elizabeth would send a list, and it's in the book, the list of things that, I needed to eat in order to remain healthy. And so it was an advance sheet. But then I've met more chefs over the last 8 years than I've met before the previous 28 years, because they were so amazed by this menu that I had. And what I discovered was that particularly chefs at hotels, they're cooking the same stuff over and over and over again. So they're like, oh, this is really unique. I like it. And it was incredibly easy to work with chefs. Now, when I go to a restaurant, the first thing I do, this sounds crazy, but the first thing I do when I talk to the waiter or waitress is I say, okay, let me just tell you right up front, I'm a special needs child regarding food. And they laugh and they say, okay, we can work with you. What do you need? So I just calm them down a bit. And I'm not being difficult. When this happened, I was in LA and there's so many people like from California. Well, I want a double latte that's this and that and whatever. And they get really difficult. So I didn't want to be difficult with people, and I wanted to let them know up front that this is a medical diet. What I found was that people are amazingly cooperative when you tell them that. And it's been that way for the last 8 years.
You're healthy. You're living in beautiful Austin in the US, one of the great cities, one of the great culinary cities of the US. Where do you see the future for business, not just the US, but globally?
Well, I've always believed in having a positive attitude. One of the things that I posted recently is that hope is more powerful than fear. And I believe that. Hope is more powerful than fear. And hope and action can change the world. And so I have hope for business and for the world. I believe that you start with hope and you take action. And I think amazing things can lie in the future for us if we take appropriate action and we come from a perspective of hope versus fear. Because I've seen many people in fear, and I got to tell you, nothing great ever comes from fear. Fear paralyzes people. Hope gives people a focus on what can be done. And so I have great hope for the future, and I think we can make amazing changes in business in the future.
Dr. Ivan Misner, founder of BNI, chef extraordinaire, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Great talking to you.